Some stories don't begin with fireworks, but with a shy wave at a school gate. Enrique Salgado never imagined that his routine as a caretaker of the Monte das Araucarias Municipal School could cross paths with an executive mother, always in a hurry, and a girl who carried in her gaze a silence deeper than any words. If you believe that life only changes in momentous occasions, prepare to rethink. Sometimes, it's in the space between sweeping the patio and arranging the chairs that fate decides to intervene. A simple gesture, holding a forgotten pencil, carefully storing a drawing, listening slowly, can open doors to something that goes far beyond kindness. Today you'll hear a story about emotional reunions, childhood friendship, emotional healing, and the silent strength of a chosen family. A story that proves that overcoming adversity doesn't require a stage, but rather a genuine presence. And in the end, you will understand why, to transform an entire life, all it takes is the courage to care. Enrique Salgado was never a man of speeches, but his actions always spoke volumes. As a janitor at the Monte das Araucarias Municipal School, he knew every corner of the schoolyard, every creak of the gate, and every child by name. Since losing his wife to cancer, his life has been about raising children. Lucas, his 8-year-old son, with as much love as his heart and wallet could allow. There was no luxury, but there was presence, and for Lucas, that was worth its weight in gold. The routine was simple and almost timed. Enrique would wake up before dawn, make coffee with homemade bread, and get Lucas ready for class. While the boy studied, he spent the day taking care of the school, fixing faucets, painting walls, mowing the lawn. It wasn't just work. For Enrique, each repair was also a way to keep his mind occupied and his heart free from the weight of homesickness. Despite the hardships, he found small joys in everyday life. An impromptu game of ball at the end of the workday, stories made up by Lucas's bedside, or the habit of making lists of good things from the day, to remind himself that, even in grief, there were still reasons to smile. This practice, which began as an exercise in gratitude, became a sacred ritual between father and son. Enrique knew the future wouldn't be easy, but he also understood that children don't live on long-term promises, they live in the now. And it was in this now that he put all his energy, believing that the constant love and simple gestures he cultivated with Lucas would be the seeds for overcoming any pain that lay ahead. Sofia arrived at Monte das Araucarias Municipal School on a cloudy morning, wearing an impeccable uniform and a distant look in her eyes. She didn't speak to anyone, not even to borrow a pencil. The teacher said that, since a traumatic event, she had opted for silence. Enrique, accustomed to observing the children during recess, noticed that Sofia spent her breaks sitting alone, doodling in notebooks with detailed and colorful drawings. These drawings were different. They weren't simple houses or flowers, but complex scenes, as if each line told a whole story. There were portraits of people, trees bent by the wind, and even animals with human expressions. Curious, Enrique began to approach slowly, just to see what emerged on the paper. He noticed that whenever someone complimented the drawings, their eyes would light up, even if their lips remained closed. Lucas, Enrique's son, also noticed her. In the innocence of children, he didn't see a strange girl, but someone in need of company. It was he who first left a folded note next to her pencils with his own drawing and the phrase, "Do you want to be my friend?" Sofia didn't respond with words, but she returned the note with an even more beautiful drawing. Thus began a silent but meaningful exchange. Enrique, who knew well the power of a simple gesture, understood that this exchange could be more important than it seemed. Little by little, he began to save some of the drawings Sofia left scattered around, imagining that one day they could tell the story of how a childhood friendship had begun without a single spoken word. It all began without grand plans, just with small invitations. Enrique would ask Sofia to help water the school plants, or to carry chalk to the teacher's lounge. Lucas, always spontaneous, would pull the girl closer to play, even when she seemed hesitant. Little by little, these simple gestures began to bear fruit, a curious glance here, a shy smile there. It was like watching a flower unfold in the sun, petal by petal. Enrique discovered that Sofia loved listening to stories, even without responding. At the end of each day, when the courtyard was nearly empty, he would tell old stories, some real, some made up, while Lucas illustrated the scenes with colored pencils. The girl, sitting next to him, paid attention to every detail and sometimes drew her own version of what she'd heard. It became a silent but lively ritual. There was no rush to get her to talk. Enrique knew that some hearts only open when they feel safe. So he focused on creating light moments, sharing a piece of cornmeal cake, teaching how to plant beans in cotton, or simply sitting together to draw. And in those moments, the absence of words left room for another language, that of care. As the weeks passed, Sofia began to show small signs of change. She spent more time with them, let Lucas color her drawings, and even chuckled softly at a silly joke Enrique told about a disorganized chicken coop. It wasn't much to outsiders, but to those who knew her story, each smile was a milestone of overcoming. It was a sunny afternoon, and Sofia's class teacher had proposed a simple activity: each student should draw their own family and then present their work to the class. Enrique, as janitor, was helping to organize the playground and occasionally peeked in on the activity inside the classroom. He wasn't expecting to be called upon, but suddenly, he saw Sofia waving at him through the door, holding a colored sheet of paper in her hands. In the drawing, there were three figures: Lucas, Enrique, and herself. The scene showed the three of them sitting on the grass, smiling, with a radiant sun in the corner. As he approached, she looked into his eyes and said, in a trembling, sweet voice, "Daddy." It was the first word out of her mouth in over a year. The silence that followed was broken only by the teary eyes of those nearby. At the back of the room, Isabella, Sofia's executive mother, had arrived early to pick her up and witness the scene. The impact was immediate. Accustomed to urgent meetings, business trips, and unavoidable goals, she realized she didn't remember the last time she'd seen her daughter smile like that. The word "daddy" wasn't just for Enrique, it was a cry of need, a plea for acceptance. Enrique, surprised and moved, simply knelt down to embrace her. He didn't correct her, didn't explain, he simply accepted the title as a gift. In that moment, no official papers, shared surnames, or blood ties mattered. There was only the recognition that, with simple gestures and constancy, he had earned a place in her heart. After that unexpected "daddy," something changed. Sofia seemed to have found a key to unlock internal doors that had long remained closed. Little by little, she began to talk more, first to Enrique and Lucas, then to some classmates. The words came slowly, like someone tasting a forgotten flavor, but each sentence was greeted with celebration. Enrique knew that forcing wouldn't work, so he continued with the same gentleness as before. During recess, he encouraged Sofia to tell him how she imagined the scenes in her drawings. On rainy days, he invited her to have hot chocolate in the janitor's office, while Lucas asked what the next chapter of the made-up story they were building together was. She answered with more detail each time, and this rubbed off on everyone around her. The teacher noticed the change and began including Sophia in group activities, always ensuring she played a key role but without putting her under pressure. The results were surprising. Within a few weeks, she was participating in discussion groups, laughing at jokes, and even asking to play on the dodgeball team, something unthinkable just months before. The schoolyard, once a place of isolation for Sophia, was now a space of genuine childhood friendship. Integration didn't come through expensive therapies or complex methods, it came through constant presence, patience, and the quiet power of genuine care. And Enrique knew this was just the beginning of a much greater emotional healing. Isabella had always lived at the fast pace of someone who believes every minute of inactivity is a lost opportunity. Her schedule was a marathon of meetings, deadlines, and travel. But when she saw Sophia smiling and speaking again, she realized she was missing something much more valuable: time with her own daughter. This realization didn't come as a sudden shock, but as a gentle weight, impossible to ignore. She started making small changes. She canceled trips that could have been arranged via video call, started leaving work early once or twice a week, and gradually learned to put her phone away when she was with Sophia. At first, she felt almost guilty for not being productive all the time, but she soon discovered that this new type of productivity had another name: bonding. Enrique observed this transformation closely. Without wanting to intrude, he offered support in the details. He would fetch Sophia from the classroom when Isabella arrived, share his daughter's latest drawings with her, and even explain how they had created a secret garden together in the corner of the school. These short stories helped mother and daughter find new conversations, unburdened by demands or resentment. For Sophia, the change was clear. Her mother's presence was no longer hurried or distracted. There was listening, laughter, and even new traditions, like making pancakes on Saturday mornings. And Isabella, previously so focused on reports and numbers, discovered that sometimes the true purpose of life is simply to be where your heart is most needed. What began as casual encounters in the schoolyard gradually blossomed into something much bigger. Enrique began receiving invitations to participate in important moments in Sophia's life, such as school performances and Sunday lunches. Lucas, in turn, gained an almost sister, with whom he shared toys, laughs, and even little secrets. There was no official ceremony, but everyone knew a new family was being formed there. Isabella, previously always distant, began to cherish every moment spent with the three of them. She and Enrique began to develop common habits: walks in the park, home movie nights, and even drawing competitions, in which everyone competed playfully. The atmosphere was light-hearted, with the feeling that each had found a safe place to call home. This union didn't erase the past's losses, but it filled the empty spaces with new memories. Enrique felt that, for the first time since his wife's death, the house once again had the sound of laughter in the hallway and the smell of cake fresh from the oven. Sophia, who had previously hidden in silence, now joined in the conversations, offering opinions and making plans for when we all travel together on vacation. And, amid this unlikely mix, something even stronger than friendship was born: the certainty that family isn't just about blood ties. It's about choice, care, and presence, exactly what they, each in their own way, decided to offer each other. As time passed, everyone realized there was no magic formula for that transformation. No grand speeches or complex plans. What changed everything were simple gestures, repeated consistently and sincerely. A cup of hot chocolate on a cold day, a reserved seat in the stands to watch the school's performance, or a sincere compliment on a colorful drawing. Small acts that, together, created a network of affection. Enrique understood that he hadn't replaced anyone. What he did was occupy the space life offered him with the utmost care and respect. Lucas learned, along with him, that friendship knows no barriers of age or background. And Sophia discovered she could trust people again, and, more importantly, herself. Isabella, in turn, began to see the world from a new perspective. The hours previously dedicated to work were now spent in a different way, afternoons in the park, conversations at the table, and shared laughter. She no longer worried so much about the perfect image she projected to the world, because she understood that what truly mattered was right there, in her daughter's tight embrace. And when everyone gathered in the living room, with drawings spread out and stories being told, the message became clear: family is the sum of the choices we make every day. It doesn't matter how it begins, but how we care for it so it flourishes. How many times have you walked past someone without realizing the weight they carry? And how many opportunities to reach out have we missed because we thought it isn't our business? The story of Enrique, Lucas, Sophia, and Isabella is a powerful reminder that, often, the biggest change begins with something small: a watchful eye, a caring gesture, a word spoken at the right time. What if today were the day you made that difference? Maybe in your family, at work, or even with a stranger who crosses your path. What would happen if you allowed yourself to truly be present? Not to solve every problem, but to show that no one has to face life alone. Perhaps, just like them, you'll discover that family isn't just about those born of the same blood, but about those who choose to walk together. And that choice, believe me, is within your reach right now. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, with each new video, you'll find narratives that inspire, move, and remind you that love, when it's genuine, has the power to transform everything.